Hello there, sweet people. We're on Chapter 3, Part 2 of What Mrs McGillicuddy Saw. That name cracks me up. Hope I can read this teeny tiny print. Lord, I can't wait to get my eyeballs checked, get glasses. I know I need new specs. Miss Marple set about her plan of campaign methodically and making due allowance for the Christmas season, which was a definitely retarding factor. She wrote to her great-nephew, David West, combining Christmas wishes with an urgent request for information. Fortunately, she was invited, as on previous years, to the vicarage for Christmas dinner, and here she was able to tackle young Leonard home the Christmas season about maps. See if that's right or not. About maps. Maps of all kinds were Leonard's passion. The reason for the old lady's inquiry about a large-scale map of a particular area did not rouse his curiosity. He discoursed on maps generally with fluency and wrote down for her exactly what would suit her purpose best. In fact, he did better. He actually found out that he had such a map among his collection, and he lent it to her, Miss Marple promising to take great care of it and return it in due course. Part 3. Maps, said his mother, Griselda, who still, although she had a grown-up son, looked strangely young and blooming to be inhabiting the shabby old vicarage. What does she want with maps? I mean, what does she want them for? I don't know, said young Leonard. I don't think she said exactly. I wonder now, said Griselda. It seems very fishy to me. At her age, the old pet ought to give up that sort of thing. Leonard asked what sort of thing, and Griselda said elusively, oh, poking her nose into things. Why maps, I wonder. In due course, Miss Marple received a letter from her grandnephew, David West. It ran affectionately, Dear Aunt Jane, now what are you up to? I've got the information you wanted. There are only 2 trains that can possibly apply, the 4:33 and the 5 o'clock. The former is a slow train and stops at Hailing, Broadway, Burwell Heath, Brackhampton, and then stations to Market Basing. The 5 o'clock is the 5 o'clock is the Welsh Express for Cardiff, Newport, and Swansea. The former might be overtaken somewhere by the 4:54, although it is due to Brackhampton 5 minutes earlier, and the latter passes the 4:54 just before Brackhampton. In all this do I smell some scandal of a fruity character. Did you, returning from a shopping spree in town by the 4:54, observe in a passing train the mayor's wife being embraced by the sanitary inspector? But why does it matter which train it was? A weekend. I'm so sorry, y'all. This is so hard for me to read. Remember which train it was. A weekend at the Porthcawl, perhaps? Thank you for the pullover. Just what I wanted. How's the garden? Not very active this time of year, I should imagine. Yours ever, David. What's that about embracing the mayor's wife? Miss Marple smiled a little, then considered the information this presented to her. Mrs. McGillicuddy had said definitely that the carriage had not been a corridor one. Therefore, not the Swansea Express. The 4:33 was indicated, and also more traveling seemed unavailable. Miss Marple sighed, but made her plans. She went up to London at before on the 12:15, but this time I'm lost. Doggone it. Okay. But this time returned not by the 4:54, but by the 4:33 as far as Brackhampton. The journey was uneventful, but she registered certain details. The train was not crowded. 4:33 was before the evening rush hour. Of the first-class carriages, only one had an occupant, a very old gentleman reading the New Statesman. Miss Marple traveled in an empty compartment, and at the two stops, hailing Broadway and Barwell Heath, leaned out of the window to observe passengers entering and leaving the train. A small number of third-class passengers got in at Hauling Broadway. At Barwell Heath, several third-class passengers got out. Nobody entered or left a first-class carriage except the old gentleman carrying his New Statesman. As the train neared Brackhampton, sweeping around a curve of line, Miss Marple rose to her feet and stood experimentally with her back to the window over which she had drawn down the blind. Yes, she decided. The impetus of the sudden curving of the line and the shackening of speed did throw one off one's balance back against the window, and the blind might, in consequence, very easily fly up. She peered out into the night. It was lighter than it had been when Mrs. McGillicuddy had made the same journey, only just dark, but there was a little more to see. For observation, she must make a daylight journey. On the next day, she went up by the early morning train, purchased 4 linen pillowcases, tut-tutting at the price, so as to I'm sorry, y'all. It's so hard for me to read it. So as to combine investigation with the provision of household necessities, and returned by a train leaving Paddington at 12:15. Again, she was almost done in the first-class carriage. Hang on. Yeah. This taxation, thought Miss Marple, that's what it is. No one can afford to travel first class except businessmen in the rush hours, I suppose. I suppose because they can charge it to expenses. Oh, Jesus, this is hard. I'm so sorry, y'all. I might try to get a... Let me get my lighted magnifying glass. Started to say, I think they have like... I know they have the sheets that you can put over stuff, the magnifying, like a piece of paper, but magnified. I wonder if they have one that's lighted like that. That's what I mean. My eyes got bad just all of a sudden. Okay, expenses. Woo! About a quarter of an hour before the train was due at Brackhampton, this ain't gonna work either, Miss Marple got out the map with which Leonard had supplied her. Nah, ain't gonna work. Had supplied her and began to observe the countryside. She had studied the map very carefully beforehand, and after noting the name of a station they passed through, she was soon able to identify where she was just as the train began to slacken for a curve. It was a very considerable curve indeed. Miss Marple, her nose glued to the window, studied the ground beneath her. The train was running on a fairly high embankment. With close attention, she divided her attention between the country outside and her map until the train finally ran into Brackhampton. That night she wrote and posted a letter addressed to Miss Florence Hill, 4 Madison Road, Brackhampton. On the following morning, going to the county library, she studied a Brackhampton directory and gazetteer and a county history. Nothing so far had contradicted the very faint and sketchy idea that had come to her. Got a sore in my mouth. What she had imagined was possible. She would go no farther after that, but the next step involved action, a good deal of action, the kind of action for which she herself was physically unfit. If her theory were to be definitely proved or disproved, she must at this point have help from some other person. The question was who. Miss Marple reviewed several names and possibilities, rejecting them all with a vexed shake of the head. The intelligent people on whose intelligence she could rely were all far too busy. Not only had they all got jobs of varying importance, their leisure hours were usually appointed long beforehand. The unintelligent who had time on their hands were simply, Miss Marple decided, no good. She pondered in growing vexation and perplexity. Then suddenly her forehead cleared. She ejaculated aloud a name. She likes that word. She ejaculated, "Of course," said Miss Marple, "Lucy Owlsborough." Lucy Owlsborough. And then we're at chapter 4. Only 14 minutes, but I will stop there. I'm so sorry. So terribly sorry. I don't have my eye appointment till August. Oh, August 2nd seems 100 years away. Yeah, it's weird. My eyes just got... For reading, I can see my stitches and stuff alright. Love y'all. Be sweet, don't be ugly. I'm going to get back on do-ragging. Bye-bye.